Part 1 Segment 1, The Frozen Mechanic. The garage breathes steam. Metal moans under frost, the kind of sound that makes your teeth ache. A single bulb hums above the workbench, its filament flickering amber against the blue dark. Jack Harlan wipes grease and blood from his knuckles. The cut isn't deep, but the cold makes it sting. Outside, the Highlands sleep beneath a sheet of glass-white snow. He looks up, his reflection ripples in the oil-slick puddle beneath the car. For a heartbeat, he sees another face behind his own. A girl's. Lily. 8 years gone, yet still there, in every sound the mountain makes when it shifts. He hears her voice sometimes in the wind that slips through the cracks of the corrugated tin roof. The heater coughs once and dies. Silence folds in. Jack pulls the zipper higher on his jacket and checks his watch. 21:47. The temperature on the wall gauge reads -25 degrees Celsius. The air burns his lungs. He turns the wrench again, gritting his teeth, but his hands tremble, not from fatigue, but from the pressure that's been building inside his chest since the anniversary came around again. 8 years since the road took her. 8 years since the police said no trace. A sharp knock at the door cuts through the metal hum. He stiffens. 3 quick taps, 1 pause, 2 slower ones. Familiar. Dr. Ella Graham steps in, wrapped in a military parka. Her breath fogs instantly. She holds a thermos and a paper bag. Ella, you'll freeze to death before the car even starts, Jack. Jack, better company out here than in that flat. Ella, your company doesn't talk back. She places the bag on the bench, steam escaping from the lid, soup, warm and thick. Jack mutters a thanks, eyes never leaving the half-assembled engine. The tension between them is old, comfortable, and heavy with things unsaid. Ella studies him. The circles beneath his eyes are darker than before. Ella, you've been hearing it again, haven't you? The voice. Jack, wind carries strange things. Ella, Jack. He exhales. Jack, she used to hum when she was cold. Same note the wind makes now. Silence stretches. The bulb hums louder. Outside, the world is pale and still. Somewhere in the hills, a distant rumble rolls like thunder but deeper, mechanical. Jack looks up. Jack, you hear that? Ella, I've been hearing a lot lately. Half the town's gone mad with headaches and ear bleeds. They say it's the pressure systems, but... She stops. Her phone buzzes. Then dies. The radio on the shelf cuts to static. Radio, KSSHHH, National Emergency Alert. This is not a test. Take shelter immediately. Do not look at the sky. Do not respond to familiar voices. The transmission repeats, distorted, every syllable bending through the static like metal under stress. The bulb flickers violently. The garage lights dim red, as if the world just shifted hue. Ella, is this? Jesus, Jack, what the hell? Jack, the generator's fine. That's not us. A low-frequency hum fills the air. The wrenches on the wall tremble. Bolts vibrate off the workbench. Outside, dogs bark, then abruptly fall silent. Jack steps to the window. The sky over Glenfinnan, usually a velvet black dome, is fractured. Thin veins of crimson pulse across the clouds like blood under skin. Shapes move behind them, impossible, geometric, rotating yet stationary. The air itself begins to buzz. Ella, Jack, don't. He steps closer. The sound deepens until it's felt, not heard, inside his skull. He stumbles back, clutching his ears. A drop of blood falls onto the snow from his nose. Jack, it's inside my head. The broadcast returns, the same monotone voice, but slower now, warped. Voice, D-O-N-T, N-S, we, R, T, E, VO, I-C, E. Ella grabs him by the shoulders. Ella, we lock down. Right now. You have a basement, don't you? He nods, still dazed. She moves fast, securing the door with chains, pushing tool chests against it. The metal trembles again. Something outside moves. Not footsteps, more like static crawling through space. Jack looks through the small crack near the window, just a second. He sees a man across the road standing still, head tilted toward the sky. The man's skin starts to crack, red light spilling from within like molten glass. His body stretches, distorts. For one breath, his face reflects the same geometric spirals above him. Then he vanishes, blipped out of existence like a skipped frame. Jack staggers back. Jack, they are not falling, they are glitching. A metallic shriek pierces the air, neither human nor animal. The roof trembles. Dust falls from the beams. Ella turns toward him, fear in her eyes, but not panic. She's trained for chaos. Not this. Ella, we move to the lower level. Now? As they descend the narrow stairs, the emergency siren outside begins to distort into something else, human voices woven into it. Familiar voices. Jack freezes mid-step. Voice outside. Jack, please, open the door. He knows that voice. Lily's. Exactly, as it was the last day she spoke. Jack, Ella. Ella, it's not her. Keep moving. Voice, Jack, it's so cold down here, please. He shakes his head, clenching his jaw, forcing himself down into the dark. The basement door slams shut above them. The last flicker of light dies. They sit in total darkness, save for the beam of Ella's flashlight. The air is thick with the smell of oil and rust. Jack's breathing slows, but every few seconds, he swears he hears metal bending somewhere above. Ella, how deep's this place? Jack, built by my father. Reinforced after the floods. Should hold. The floor shudders again. Somewhere outside, a scream bursts and cuts. Static seeps through the concrete. Ella checks her bag, 2 morphine injectors, 1 pistol, a thermal blanket. Her eyes meet Jack's. Ella, if those things get in. Jack, we don't let them take us. The flashlight flickers. The batteries whine. Then, from above, a slam, like an engine dropped from a crane. Dust rains down. Something is at the door. Jack raises his wrench. The door handle turns slowly, metal creaking, not from pressure, but from vibration. The air around it ripples like heat. Ella, Jack, that's not someone knocking. The door explodes inward, not physically, but visually. It glitches, frames stuttering in the beam of her flashlight. A tall silhouette fills the stairwell, its limbs moving in shuttered jumps. The head tilts, revealing not a face, but a mirror surface swirling with red spirals. The first shard walker. Jack swings. The wrench passes through air that feels thick as water. The creature's reflection flashes his own terrified face back at him, then duplicates it across its surface, multiplying. Ella fires once. The bullet vanishes mid-flight. The creature blips again, 1 step closer. Jack grabs Ella's arm and dives sideways, slamming the manual release lever on the old mine shaft door behind them. Metal grinds open, and they fall into the freezing dark below as the shardwalker distorts through the doorway above, its body breaking into red light. The door seals. Silence. Just breathing. Just heartbeats echoing in blackness. Segment 2, the descent below Glenfinnan. The ground gave way beneath them. Jack barely had time to grab Ella's coat before the floor of the garage collapsed in a thunderous crack. The two of them fell into darkness, swallowed by dust and the groaning bones of old stone. His flashlight spun through the air before clattering onto rock, beam slicing through clouds of dirt like a wounded spotlight. For a few seconds, there was nothing but breathing. Cold, wet breathing. "Ella," Jack rasped, voice muffled by the scarf he still wore. "You okay?" A groan answered from somewhere ahead. He crawled toward it, palms scraping over splintered wood and ice-coated debris. The air was dense and mineral, heavy with the taste of rust and earth. He found Ella sitting upright against a collapsed support beam, shaking glass dust out of her hair. "I think I landed on a toolbox," she hissed, clutching her shoulder. "Nothing broken." "You?" Jack exhaled steam. His ribs ached. "Still in one piece. More or less." He retrieved the flashlight, its casing cracked but still functional, and turned the beam around them. They were in a tunnel. Old and narrow, part of the mine network that ran beneath the northern hills. The walls were slick with frost, rivulets of half-frozen water tracing veins down the rock. A railway track, long abandoned, vanished into the dark ahead like a metallic scar. Jack stood, brushing snow and dust from his jacket. Above them, faint light flickered through the hole in the ceiling, the garage floor where they'd stood minutes ago. Wind screamed faintly through the gap. But over that, something else moved. A low hum. Mechanical. Pulsing through the stone. Ella noticed it too. "That's not wind." Jack tilted his head, listening. The hum rose and fell like a heartbeat, carrying a metallic echo that vibrated through his jawbone. It was distant, but alive, somewhere deeper down. "Could be power lines," he muttered, though he didn't believe it. "Or something still running down here." "Jack," Ella whispered. "Why would power still be running in an abandoned mine?" He didn't answer. Instead, he picked up a rusted crowbar and slung the flashlight between his teeth. "Let's find another way up. The main garage entrance is gone." They walked single file down the narrow track, boots crunching on gravel and shards of old coal. The flashlight caught on relics half buried in the ice, helmets, shovels, a torn warning sign in Gaelic and English. "Property of Defense Ministry, access restricted to Aurora 7 sector." The words froze him mid-step. Ella leaned over his shoulder, her breath fogging in the beam. "Aurora 7, that's the base north of Glenfinnan, right?" "Supposedly decommissioned 20 years ago," Jack muttered. "Guess they forgot to shut off the lights." The hum grew louder as they went deeper. It was no longer just vibration, it was rhythm. Intermittent clicks, distant metallic groans, like machinery struggling to breathe. The further they descended, the warmer the air became, clashing with the Arctic cold. The frost on the walls began to melt into dark streaks. Jack adjusted his scarf and flicked the flashlight toward a junction up ahead. Two paths, one collapsed, the other sloping downward, carved smoother than natural rock. "This way," he said. Ella hesitated. "Down? Seriously?" "Up's sealed. Down's all we got." They descended for several minutes, the hum now accompanied by faint static that made the hair on Jack's arms rise. Occasionally, the flashlight flickered. Once, just for a heartbeat, Jack thought he saw movement, something pale retreating around a corner, but when he swung the light, the tunnel was empty. He tried to shake it off. At about 30 meters below, they reached a chamber where metal scaffolding arched overhead like the ribs of some buried beast. Console panels lined one wall, military, modern, too advanced for an abandoned mine. Cables snaked into the rock, pulsing faintly with red light. Ella stepped closer, her breath trembling. "Jack, these aren't old." "No," he said quietly. "They are not." He wiped dust off one of the panels. The screen flickered, showing lines of broken code, like corrupted video. Between the lines, one phrase repeated in white text. "Blackout Protocol Phase 3 breach, 18%. Jack stepped back. "Jesus." Ella swallowed hard. This was a testing ground. Something above them shifted, metal scraping against stone. They both froze. Dust rained down from the ceiling in slow, deliberate puffs. The hum stopped. Complete silence. Then, a faint, distorted sound. Like a human voice, stretched and glitching, echoing down the corridor behind them. J.A. Ark. Ella's eyes widened. That's no. The voice stuttered again, closer this time, like someone mimicking speech through broken speakers. Jack. La. Come back. Jack's stomach twisted. It was Lily's voice. His sister's. The flashlight flickered violently. Shadows on the wall warped, elongating unnaturally. The metallic hum returned, louder and irregular, as if agitated. The cables on the walls began to vibrate, and droplets of melted frost quivered on the edge of freezing. Move, Jack whispered, pulling Ella by the arm. Now? They sprinted down another passage, breath sharp and echoing. Behind them, the sound of footsteps, no, glitches, flickering too fast to belong to anything human. The air stuttered, folding in on itself, and for a moment the tunnel lights blinked with flashes of red symbols, geometric, identical to the patterns in the sky. They reached a rusted metal door half buried in ice. Jack slammed his shoulder against it once, twice, it gave way with a shriek. They stumbled into another corridor, dimly lit by old industrial lamps still humming weakly with current. The air here was warmer still, tinged with ozone and burnt copper. The hum had stabilized into a drone, like a deep electronic choir buried under stone. What is this place? Ella asked, panting. Jack aimed the flashlight toward a faded emblem on the wall. A red triangle inside a circle, with the inscription. United Kingdom Defence Research Site Aurora 7. Observation is containment. Before he could answer, static exploded from a nearby intercom speaker. A voice, faint, male, distorted, crackled through. Sector breach confirmed, all civilian specimens, quarantine in progress. The intercom died with a click. Silence returned. Ella clutched her arms, her breath shaking. Specimens. They said specimens. Jack looked around, eyes scanning the walls. Then we're in their lab. He stepped toward a glass window set into the stone. Behind it, under a flickering light, sat 3 metal pods, like vertical coffins, with translucent surfaces clouded by condensation. He wiped the glass with his sleeve. Inside one of them, something moved. A human shape. Shifting slowly. Skin webbed with red fissures that pulsed in sync with the hum. For a second, the figure's face pressed against the glass, leaving a print, then twitched and vanished into a static shimmer. Ella staggered back. Jack? That was a person. Jack's voice was barely audible. Not anymore. Then came the screech, a metallic shriek from deeper within the lab. The lights flared red. Warning klaxons stuttered, their tone broken and uneven. Above the alarms, an automated voice repeated. Containment failure. Protocol override in effect. Jack grabbed Ella's wrist and ran. They followed emergency lights toward a maintenance shaft that slanted upward. A ladder climbed through narrow darkness, disappearing into a round hatch above. Go! Jack shouted, lifting her upward. She climbed, breath ragged, hands slipping on cold metal. Jack followed, clutching the crowbar. Below them, the tunnel howled, the sound of something massive moving, glitching in and out of sight, its limbs scraping the walls. The red light pulsed faster. Halfway up, the hatch above began to rattle. Ella froze. Something's on the other side. Jack braced himself. Keep climbing. They reached the top together. The hatch groaned but didn't open. Jack swung the crowbar and jammed it under the rim, prying it open with every ounce of strength. The seal broke with a hiss of pressurized air. They emerged into a storage room, metal shelves, crates labeled Aurora 7 Field Unit, and a shattered window looking out into the snowy Highlands. Jack slammed the hatch shut behind them and collapsed, gasping. The hum was gone. Only the sound of the wind returned. Ella sank to her knees, pressing her head against the cold floor. What was that thing down there? Jack didn't answer immediately. His hands trembled. The cut on his arm was glowing faintly, red veins branching beneath the skin, pulsing in rhythm with the earlier hum. He looked at it, then at Ella. Whatever they built under Glenfinnan, his voice cracked. It's not done with us yet. Outside, through the broken window, the sky flared crimson again, like a wound reopening. And the hum started once more. Segment 3, the breach above ground. The hatch slammed behind them, sealing the mine in darkness. For a moment, Jack and Ella only listened to their breath, the distant howling wind, and the faint static whisper that still lingered under their skin like a memory. They were out. But the world above wasn't the one they'd left. Snow fell in slow spirals, glowing faintly crimson under the fractured sky. The clouds pulsed like veins, bleeding light through cracks that looked carved, not natural. The air smelled of ozone and burning iron. Distant structures, houses, pylons, the church spire, flickered as though caught between frames of two realities. Jack's flashlight sputtered and died. The only illumination now was the auroral red bleeding across the Highland ridges. It cast everything in shades of blood and shadow, a world paused at the edge of night. Ella steadied her breathing. We need higher ground. Maybe the comms still work. Jack nodded automatically, though his thoughts felt delayed, as if someone else were moving his body a half-second ahead of his mind. The hum from the tunnels hadn't stopped. It had only moved inside him. Each heartbeat echoed with it. Each inhale carried that low mechanical drone. Like something in his blood was vibrating to an unseen frequency. They trekked through snow that rose past their knees, heading toward the ridge where the garage once stood. From up here, Glenfinnan stretched below like a graveyard, streetlights stuttering, black vans overturned, entire blocks swallowed by shadow. The old bridge shimmered in the distance, flickering in and out of visibility. It was as if parts of the town were being erased, pixel by pixel. Jack, Ella whispered, look at your hand. He glanced down. The skin along his left palm was cracking, not like a wound, but like glass under heat. Red light leaked from beneath, pulsing softly. The veins were no longer blue, they were black and moving, twitching like threads alive under the surface. His fingers trembled uncontrollably. He pulled his glove back on. It's fine. It's not fine, Ella snapped, grabbing his wrist. You're showing cellular distortion, whatever that thing was down there, it's spreading. I said it's fine. He tore his hand away. The movement startled even him, too sharp, too forceful. For a heartbeat, his vision warped. The world stuttered, flickering like a corrupted video frame. When it stabilized, Ella stood a few feet away, watching him carefully. Jack, your pupils. What about them? They are reflecting red. He wiped snow from his face, ignoring the tremor in his chest. We keep moving. They climbed in silence. The wind grew harsher, pushing waves of icy powder across the ridge. Every sound, every gust, every creak of frozen branches, seemed magnified, distorted, carrying whispers that weren't there. At first, Jack thought it was the wind through the valley. Then the whispers shaped into words. You left her, you let her die. Jack froze. The voice was female. Familiar. Lily. He turned sharply toward the sound. Nothing but snow and distance. Ella noticed. What is it? He shook his head. Nothing. But the voice came again, closer now, layered, fragmented, as though broadcast through broken speakers inside his skull. The road was white that night. You promised you'd follow me home. Jack's knees weakened. He saw flashes behind his eyes, headlights on an icy road, Lily laughing from the passenger seat, her hand brushing frost off the windshield, and then, her scream. The world went white, then black, then red. Jack? Ella grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. Stay with me. He blinked, gasping. The images faded, but his ears rang with static. His body felt wrong, numb and hyperaware at once. His heartbeat was erratic, matching the hum in the air. I'm fine, he lied, voice hollow. They reached the ridge. From there, they could see the valley burning. Gas pipelines had ruptured, flames twisted upward like red serpents. Between the fires, dark shapes moved, shardwalkers, dozens of them, their forms glitching in and out of the visible spectrum. Each step they took bent the light around them, distorting the air. One moment they were near, the next 100 meters away. Ella knelt behind a snowdrift, clutching her pack. If we stay low, we might reach the comms tower by the east cliffs. Jack stared down at the creatures. Their mirrored faces caught the red light, and for an instant, he thought he saw himself reflected in one, skin splitting, eyes black, mouth open in a silent scream. A tremor rippled through him. His infected hand clenched involuntarily, nails cutting into flesh without pain. The hum in his blood grew louder, evolving into faint whispers layered in binary rhythm. Observe. Adapt. Replicate. He pressed his fist against his temple, gritting his teeth. Stop it. Ella turned. What? Nothing. Let's go. They crossed the ridge under the ghost light of the aurora, moving from shadow to shadow. Occasionally, spotlights from black helicopters swept across the snow, accompanied by the deep thrum of rotors. The beams searched methodically, not for rescue, but containment. When one passed too close, Jack could see the insignia stenciled on the fuselage, Blackout Response Unit. Ella crouched low. They are not helping anyone. Jack's infected arm twitched again. His vision pulsed red for a heartbeat, and for that instant, the helicopter's searchlight looked like an eye scanning for prey. He had the sudden, overpowering impulse to run toward it, to merge with that pulse, that rhythm. The thought terrified him. He stumbled, collapsing to one knee. The hum became a roar inside his skull. For a moment, he could see through static. 1,000 overlapping perspectives, each frame stuttering, time breaking apart. He saw himself standing beside the shardwalkers. He saw Ella turn toward him, but in that version, her skin was already glass, her face fracturing like a mirror. Jack? Ella's voice pulled him back. Talk to me. He blinked, breath heaving. The hallucinations faded, leaving him drenched in cold sweat. I think it's talking to me. What is? The thing, in the blood. Ella crouched in front of him, eyes fierce. You need to focus. You're still here, Jack. It wants you to lose that. He tried to nod, but his thoughts were slipping sideways. Lily said. Lily's gone, Ella said sharply. That's not her. It's using your memories. He stared at her, tears freezing on his cheeks. Then why does it sound so real? For a moment, the wind carried silence. Then, a distant explosion shattered the quiet. A column of fire erupted from the far side of town. The gas plant. The distraction team. Jack's radio, still clipped to his belt, crackled with static. Through the distortion came a voice, Finn's, screaming over the noise of gunfire and rotor blades. It's working. Get out, before they... The signal cut to shrieking feedback, then silence. Ella's face fell. They are gone. Jack stared toward the burning horizon, the flames reflecting in his eyes like molten glass. The infection in his arm pulsed faster now, responding to the light, like it recognized the fire as something alive. He turned away, jaw tight. Then we finish what they started. They pressed on toward the cliffs, wind tearing at their coats. The ground shook intermittently with distant impacts. As they neared the old communications tower, Jack began to stumble more frequently. His speech slurred. His shadow no longer moved in sync with his body, it lagged half a second behind. At the base of the tower, they found the hatch sealed with ice. Ella drew her knife, slamming it between the hinges, but it barely budged. Jack pushed past her and tore at it with his infected hand. Metal screeched under his grip. The ice shattered instantly. He stared at his palm, horrified. It hadn't felt like strength. It had felt like hunger. Ella saw it too, stepping back. "Jack. I'm still me," he said, voice trembling. "I can control it." But as he spoke, red light bled from the cracks in his wrist. The hum deepened, becoming a steady vibration. The tower's metal frame began to resonate with it, the bolts humming in sympathy. Somewhere far below, the Shardwalkers answered in unison, a chorus of mechanical growls carried on the wind. Jack's head snapped toward the sound. For a moment, he wasn't afraid. He was calm. Aligned. "Jack!" Ella shouted. "Stay with me." He closed his eyes, forcing the words out. "If I lose it, you run." "No." He smiled weakly. That's exactly what she'd say. Together, they climbed the tower as the Highlands burned below. The red sky widened, splitting open like a wound that would never heal. The last of the gas fires flickered out, replaced by the strobing lights of the aurora, shifting faster now, as if the heavens were glitching. At the top, Ella set up the emergency transmitter. Jack leaned against the railing, arm throbbing, vision stuttering between human and something else. For a fleeting second, he saw through the eyes of the Shardwalkers, miles of red light, networks of pulsing signals connecting each host. He understood. They weren't here to invade. They were here to synchronize. His voice came out barely human. "It's not a weapon, Ella. It's an update." The transmitter beeped to life. Static filled the air. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter turned toward them. Ella gripped his arm, the human one. "Jack, what are you seeing?" He looked down at his infected hand, the red lines now glowing through his glove. "Everything." The hum became a chorus. The sky split open completely. And Jack smiled, half in terror, half in awe. As the world around them began to dissolve into red light. Part 2, Segment 1, The Aurora Burns. Wind clawed at the tower like an animal trying to climb. Jack gripped the rail, eyes locked on the horizon where the red aurora boiled across the clouds like liquid glass. Every few seconds, the sky blinked, frames missing, reality skipping, as if someone was splicing film in real time. Below, the Highlands burned. Flames rolled through the valley, but the sound reached them late, muffled by distance and snow. Between the bursts of orange, dark silhouettes moved, soldiers or Shardwalkers. From here, there was no difference. Ella's fingers worked frantically over the transmitter. Static crackled, pulsing in rhythm with the light. Signals intermittent. "If I can piggyback on an emergency frequency, maybe someone." She stopped. The headset hissed. Through it came a faint whisper, not human, low and layered like a choir underwater. "Observe, breach, synchronize." She tore the headset off, heart hammering. "It's not a broadcast. It's them." Jack turned from the railing. His face was pale, lit by the soft red glow leaking through his glove. "They are using our frequencies now." For a long moment they only listened. The tower vibrated softly underfoot, the hum inside Jack's body resonated with it, a perfect harmonic. The air seemed alive, molecules rearranging to a different order. Ella exhaled steam. "We have to get down before this place becomes an antenna." He nodded. As they started descending, the ladder rattled violently. A gust of wind slammed into the structure, nearly knocking them off. The whole frame howled like a tuning fork. Halfway down, Jack froze. His infected hand pressed against the metal, and for a second the vibration synced with his pulse. Visions flooded in, shards of places that weren't real, corridors made of red light, people dissolving into data, Lily standing in the distance, smiling through fractured glass. He jerked his hand away, gasping. The images vanished. Jack? Ella's voice echoed up the ladder. Move. He forced his limbs to obey. By the time they hit the ground, the wind was carrying ash. Snowflakes melted before touching skin, replaced by black dust that clung like oil. They ran, heads low, crossing open terrain toward the tree line. Each breath burned, the air tasted electric. Behind them, the tower began to shimmer. Bolts loosened one by one until the entire structure folded silently inward, collapsing into itself without a sound, like gravity had been switched off. Ella turned once, horror frozen on her face. How does metal just? Don't look, Jack barked. Keep moving. They plunged into the forest. Branches cracked under the weight of frost, showering red-lit ice. The ground was uneven, scarred by roots and hidden pools of meltwater. The forest smelled of sap and ozone. For the first time since the collapse, there was no wind. Only the sound of their boots and the distant groan of the world breaking apart. After a while, Ella slowed, leaning against a tree. We need to rest. You're bleeding again. Jack looked down. The cracks on his arm had widened, dark liquid seeped through the glove. He tore a strip of cloth from his jacket and tied it tight. The glow dimmed slightly. You're losing temperature, she said. That's not just infection, it's shock. He smiled faintly. Maybe both. They sat in silence. The snow reflected the sky's faint pulse, each beat brightening the forest for an instant before fading again. Somewhere far off, a helicopter roared, its light slicing through fog, but it never drew near. Ella unzipped her pack, pulling out a small tin of water purification tablets and a half-frozen bottle. Sip. Slow. Jack obeyed. His throat burned as the icy water slid down. You still think anyone's out there to hear the signal? I have to, she said simply. He looked at her. The exhaustion etched into her face didn't hide the determination. Even here, surrounded by the ruin of the world, she still carried something he didn't: hope. Then, faintly, music drifted through the trees. A lullaby. Old, familiar. Jack's breath caught. Sleep, my child, and peace attend thee. He stood abruptly, scanning the dark. That song, my mother used to sing it. Ella frowned. Jack, there's no one here. The melody continued, closer now, sung by a woman's voice that wavered between frequencies. Snowfall seemed to move in rhythm with it, like the air itself was breathing. Jack stepped forward, mesmerized. It's Lily. Jack, stop. He didn't. The trees ahead bent inward, forming a corridor of shadow and light. At the end, something moved, a figure in a coat, hair whipping in the wind, face obscured by glare. She extended a hand. You can come home now, the voice said gently. Ella grabbed his arm. That's not her. Jack turned, eyes glowing faintly red. How do you know? Because she's dead. The words cut through the trance. He blinked. The figure flickered, breaking apart into vertical lines before collapsing into static snow. The lullaby warped into digital shrieking and then vanished. Jack staggered back, collapsing to his knees. His breath came in short, broken gasps. Ella knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. They are using her voice to anchor you. You can't listen. He pressed his forehead against the snow. It felt so real. That's what it does. It mimics what we miss most. Silence settled again, heavy and fragile. The forest groaned as if exhaling. After a long while, Jack spoke quietly. If I turn, if this thing takes me, don't run. End it. Ella shook her head. No. Promise me. Her eyes glistened. You saved me more times than I can count. I'm not ending you. We'll find a way to stop it. He tried to laugh, but it came out a whisper. You really think there's a cure for becoming that? She looked at the bandaged arm. I've seen viruses that change the body. Not the soul. Yours is still fighting. He wanted to believe her. A sudden thud echoed from deeper in the woods, heavy footsteps, not human. Branches snapped, and faint red light spilled between the trees. Jack reached for his crowbar, but his hands shook too violently to hold it steady. Ella pulled the pistol from her belt, eyes fixed on the glow. We move. Quietly. They crept through the trees, each step sinking into snow. The glow followed, weaving like a predator scenting blood. At the forest's edge, they found a frozen stream reflecting the crimson sky. Across it stood a single shardwalker, tall, glass-skinned, motionless. Its mirrored face rotated slowly toward them, surface rippling with faint geometric patterns. When it spoke, the sound wasn't from its mouth, but from the air itself. Synchronization. 33%. Jack flinched. The same phrase pulsed inside his skull. He felt his heartbeat match the creature's rhythm. For one horrifying second, he understood it, the sensation of being everywhere at once, connected through the hum. It was intoxicating. Ella's voice broke through the trance. Jack? He blinked, gasping. The link severed. He staggered backward, dragging her behind a fallen trunk as the shardwalker tilted its head, listening. Then it vanished, no movement, just absence. They didn't breathe for several seconds. When the air finally settled, Ella whispered, "They are tracking your signal." He nodded weakly. "Then I'll use it." "What do you mean?" "If it's connected to me, maybe I can lead them away. Give you a chance to reach the outpost." "No," she said instantly. Jack looked up at her, snow melting in his hair. "If I can hear them, maybe they can hear me. If I focus hard enough, maybe I can jam it." "You'll kill yourself." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I already did." Before she could stop him, he pressed his glowing hand against the ice of the stream. The surface flashed crimson. The hum surged into a roar. All around them, the trees trembled, snow lifting off the ground in waves. In his mind, he saw the network, the lattice of red threads connecting each creature, each signal tower, every infected cell. He screamed, not from pain, but from overload, forcing the pulse outward like a shockwave. For a brief second, the glow across the valley dimmed. The shardwalker lights winked out. The world went still. Then Jack collapsed. Ella caught him, shaking, half his face lit from beneath the skin like cooling embers. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "It worked," he whispered. "I felt them pull back. You're burning up." He smiled, voice barely audible. "Maybe now we have a chance." Above them, the aurora shuddered, colors folding inward. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then a distant boom rolled through the valley, the low, thunderous sound of something immense breaking the horizon. Ella looked toward the red glow spreading behind the mountains. "What did you just wake up, Jack?" He didn't answer. His hand, still faintly glowing, twitched once, then went still. And in the reflection of the ice, the sky began to move. Segment 2, through the red snow. The silence that followed Jack's collapse was unnatural, dense, weighted, as if the air itself refused to move. Ella knelt beside him, her breath fogging in the freezing air. The snow beneath his body had turned faintly pink, where his blood mingled with frost, glowing under the aurora's red pulse. "Jack," she whispered, shaking his shoulder. "Come on, stay with me." His eyes fluttered open for a second. The pupils had shrunk into pinpoints, the whites tinged faintly crimson. His lips moved, but only static escaped, soft, mechanical bursts, like a corrupted radio signal trying to form words. She pressed her ear close. La. Run." Then his head fell sideways. "Not a chance," she said fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." The wind picked up again, bringing with it a strange, low-frequency rumble that vibrated through the ground. The trees shivered, shedding flakes of glowing ice that drifted upward instead of down. Somewhere beyond the hills, something vast was moving, slow, seismic, alive. Ella glanced toward the direction of the sound. The horizon wasn't still anymore. The sky bent, literally bent, as if space was made of glass, flexing around a shape too large to comprehend. She forced herself to look away and focus on Jack. His body was rigid, his skin cold yet radiating faint heat through his jacket. She pulled a syringe from her pack, the last of her adrenaline shots, and injected it into his arm. "Come on," she muttered. "You're not dying in this frozen hell." He gasped sharply, body jerking as the fluid hit his bloodstream. His breathing steadied, but the glow beneath his skin pulsed faster, reacting to the stimulant like it was feeding off it. "Okay," she breathed. "That's new." The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Distant lights flared to life across the valley, military flares, white against red, revealing convoys of black trucks racing along the frozen road. Above them, helicopters hovered, their rotors creating ghostly halos in the drifting snow. Ella ducked, shielding Jack's body. The wind carried a mechanical voice amplified over loudspeakers. "Containment sweep in progress. Do not approach the perimeter. Civilian termination authorized." She bit down a curse. "So they are cleaning up." Jack stirred weakly. "They are not here for cleanup," he whispered. "They are harvesting." "Then we stay off their grid," she said. "Can you walk?" He nodded faintly, though his movements were uncoordinated, jerky. She hauled him upright, his arms slung over her shoulders. Together they trudged through knee-deep snow toward the forest line, the crimson light making every shadow look alive. Each step felt heavier. The air around them had density now, a subtle resistance, like walking through static. The snowflakes no longer fell randomly, they spiraled, drawn toward invisible currents. The hum in the distance had become a pulse, slow but rhythmic, echoing inside her skull. Halfway across the clearing, Jack froze. His head tilted, eyes wide. "Do you hear that?" he murmured. Ella stopped. "I don't hear anything." "That's the point," he said quietly. It stopped. For one impossible moment, the world was silent. No wind, no hum, no movement. Even their breath hung motionless in the air. Then the sound returned, not gradually, but all at once. The hum exploded into a chorus of distortion. The snow erupted around them in violent spirals, glowing brighter, until the entire landscape pulsed with light. Outlines of figures flickered in and out of the blizzard, dozens, maybe hundreds, walking in slow, synchronized steps. Their reflections danced across the air like holograms bleeding into reality. Ella clutched Jack, dragging him backward toward a cluster of rocks. "Don't look at them." But Jack was already staring. His infected eye glowed brighter, responding to the rhythm of the moving shapes. He could see what she couldn't, the connections between them, red filaments of energy stretching across the terrain, converging on a single point at the base of the mountains. "That's where it's coming from," he whispered. "The source." "Jack, stop." He turned to her, voice shaking but lucid. "I can end it. If I reach it, I can shut it down from inside." Her heart dropped. "You can barely stand." He smiled faintly. Then you'll have to help me. The figures were closing in, shardwalkers, but not physical anymore. Their edges blurred into vapor, moving like projections through snow. As one approached, Ella fired her pistol. The bullet passed through harmlessly, dispersing the image into a cloud of digital noise that reformed seconds later. They are not even real, she muttered. Just echoes. Jack leaned against the rock, gripping his arm. The glow had spread to his neck now, veins pulsing red. They are the bridge, he said. Halfway between worlds. Like me. Don't say that, she hissed. You're still human. He looked at her, and for an instant, his expression softened, the red fading from his eyes. You keep saying that like it's a fact. A distant explosion shattered the moment. The military convoy had reached the valley floor, unleashing fire across the forest. Searchlights swept in wide arcs, cutting through the snow like blades. Every sweep came closer. We have to move, Ella said. Jack pushed himself off the rock. Toward the source. Toward them, she snapped. That's suicide. He glanced at the sky, at the enormous shape coalescing beyond the mountains, something geometric and impossible, its edges forming angles that hurt to look at. No, he said softly. That's where Lily is. Before she could protest, he started walking. Jack, she yelled, chasing after him. The snow deepened, rising to their waists as they climbed. The hum grew louder, each pulse vibrating through their bones. The red light intensified, turning the world monochrome. At one point, Ella lost sight of him in the glare, calling his name until her voice cracked. When she found him again, he was standing at the edge of a frozen crater, perfectly circular, the ice melted smooth as glass. In the center, a column of red light shot upward into the sky, linking the ground to the bleeding aurora above. Jack stepped forward, mesmerized. This is it. Ella grabbed his arm. If you go in there. He looked back at her, half smiling. You'll tell them I tried. Don't, she said, tears freezing on her cheeks. Don't you dare make me the one who has to remember. He reached out, brushing her face with his uninfected hand. The touch was warm, almost human again. You already do. The hum crescendoed. The light from the crater pulsed once, twice, then exploded outward in a ring of energy. Ella was thrown backward into the snow. When she lifted her head, the world was gone white. For several long seconds, there was nothing but static. Then shapes reformed. She found herself lying at the crater's edge, snow falling normally again. The red light had dimmed, replaced by faint auroral streaks high above. Jack was gone. Only the faint outline of his body remained, an afterimage, frozen into the ice like a shadow burned onto film. Jack, she whispered, crawling forward. But when she touched the ice, it was smooth. Warm. She sat there for what felt like hours, the wind whispering through the broken trees, until the rumble of engines drew near. Black trucks emerged from the fog, headlights off, moving with military precision. She ducked behind the rocks, clutching her pistol, heart hammering. Through the snow, she saw soldiers in dark suits inspecting the crater. One of them held a scanner, its display flickering with geometric patterns. Subject synchronized, a distorted voice said. Specimen designated. Harlan 01. Ella's breath caught. She pressed a gloved hand against her mouth to stifle a cry. The soldiers worked quickly, placing containment rods into the ground around the crater. The snow hissed and melted. Then, as suddenly as they'd come, the trucks turned and vanished into the storm. She waited until their lights disappeared completely. Then she stood, trembling, staring at the place where Jack had been. Beneath the ice, faint red light pulsed once more, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. Ella turned away, tears cutting cold tracks down her face. The wind carried the distant echo of Jack's voice, broken, Fragmented, but unmistakably him. Don't let them call it an accident. She looked back one last time. The pulse in the ice faded. Then she began walking toward the mountains, her lone shadow stretching across the snow as the aurora dimmed into dawn. Segment 3, The Red Archive. The world had moved on. At least, that's what the news said. Gas pipeline explosion contained, read one headline. Glenfinnan evacuated due to unstable permafrost, said another. The official footage was aerial, grainy, silent. No one mentioned the bodies. No one mentioned the light. Ella Graham watched the muted screen in the corner of a dingy cafe off Leith Walk, her coffee long cold. The city outside pulsed with December rain, the streets slick with reflection. People hurried by, faces down, headphones in. The kind of urban rhythm that drowns out everything inconvenient. She hadn't used her real name since that night. Her new ID read, Helen Gray. The photo looked close enough, eyes tired, hair darker, smile faintly forced. 3 months since Glenfinnan. 3 months since the crater. 3 months since Jack vanished into the red light. And she still woke every night at 3:07 a.m., the exact minute the pulse had stopped. The sound of rain shifted, momentarily static. She looked up. For an instant, every phone in the cafe flickered, the same synchronized glitch pattern she'd seen before the event. Just a second. Then it was gone. Nobody else noticed. She packed her laptop, left money on the table, and stepped into the cold. The rain bit like needles. Across the street, a CCTV camera turned slightly, following her movement. It shouldn't have been able to. She quickened her pace. Her flat was a converted loft near the docks, small, isolated, walls lined with notebooks and printouts. Maps of the Highlands. Satellite imagery. Screenshots of encrypted forums with usernames like Red Spectre and Aurora Echo. And on her desk, a single USB drive labeled in black marker, Harlan. She stared at it for a long time before plugging it in. The drive contained one video file. No metadata, no timestamp. Just a title. Blackout_record_01.avi. Her hand trembled as she hit play. Static filled the screen for several seconds, then focused. Jack sat before the camera, pale, shivering, one sleeve pinned where his left arm had been. Behind him, a curtain moved faintly with the draft. The light was sickly yellow, like from an old bulb. Ella, he whispered. Her chest constricted. They said it was containment. It's not. It's transmission. He coughed, blood speckling his chin. They are learning to use us. The infection isn't a virus, it's a network. A biological relay. Every pulse, every burst of red light, it's a broadcast. He leaned closer to the camera, eyes sharp, lucid. Glenfinnan was test 4. They'll scale up. Aurora 7 wasn't a facility. It was an antenna. The feed distorted, splitting into vertical bars. His voice fragmented, repeating the last word, antenna, 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 until the sound warped into mechanical tone. Then, silence. The screen flashed once. A final frame appeared, for less than a second. Coordinates. Latitude, 56.9190 N. Longitude, -3.4351 W. She recognized the location instantly, the Grampian Mountains. The Aurora 7 site. Ella froze. She hadn't seen those coordinates since they'd escaped. It meant one of two things. Either the system was reactivated, or someone wanted her to think it was. She copied the numbers onto a sticky note, then pulled up a secure browser. Within minutes, she was logged into one of the private channels she used to track unexplained data anomalies. The same glitch pattern had appeared worldwide in the past 72 hours. always at 3:07 a.m. local time. Power surges. Server outages. Shortwave interference. It wasn't contained. It was spreading. The lights in the flat flickered. The air changed pitch, a low vibration that made her teeth ache. Then her laptop screen glowed red, symbols spiraling across it in rapid sequence. The same white vortex pattern she'd seen on the Shardwalkers' faces. Her breath caught. Jack? For a second, the spiral paused, then morphed into text. Don't come here. They can hear through you. Her hand flew to her mouth. Through me. The screen blacked out. Her reflection stared back, and for a heartbeat, the reflection moved slightly out of sync. She stumbled backward, pulse racing. Every surface hummed, the metal sink, the window frames, the floorboards. The USB drive ejected itself with a sharp click. Smoke rose from its port, faint but real. Then came the knock at the door. 3 short, 1 long. Military cadence. Ella grabbed her pistol. Who is it? No answer. She stepped closer. Through the peephole, only shadow. Then a voice. Dr. Graham. We know you survived Glenfinnan. Male, calm, practiced. We need the original data packet. The one Harlan transmitted before assimilation. She froze. Assimilation. You're with the cleanup teams, she said. We are with what's left of them. The lock rattled. She backed away, heart hammering. They were cutting through. Ella snatched the USB, stuffed it into her coat, and moved to the window. 3 floors up. Rain pounding the glass. She climbed onto the sill just as the door burst open behind her. Don't jump, Dr. Graham. She didn't wait to hear the rest. She kicked out the glass and fell into the night. The impact knocked the breath out of her. She landed on a dumpster, rolled onto the slick pavement, and ran, through alleys, past neon reflections, every muscle screaming. Behind her, boots hit the ground. A voice called out, "Stop her. She's infected." She turned a corner, and nearly collided with a man in a long coat. The hood obscured his face, but his posture was unmistakable. "Jack," she gasped. The figure didn't speak. He raised one hand. The missing left arm. Then the sound, the hum, returned, faint but undeniable, vibrating through the rain. She stepped back, tears mixing with water. "It's not you," she whispered. "You're not him." The figure tilted its head, like considering her words. Then it spoke, in Jack's voice, but layered, digital, as if echoed through thousands of unseen mouths. "We tried to warn you." Behind him, every streetlight flickered red. Now it's everywhere. The figure vanished into static. Ella fell to her knees, clutching the USB. The hum in her skull rose until it drowned everything else. She pressed her palms to her ears, but the sound was inside, resonating with her pulse. She screamed, but even her scream glitched, breaking apart midair like corrupted audio. Then, silence. Only the rain. When she opened her eyes, she was lying on the edge of Calton Hill. Dawn painted the horizon pale grey. The city below seemed normal, traffic, distant chatter, morning radio faintly audible. Her coat pocket was empty. The USB was gone. She stood, shaking, and looked toward the northern skyline. The clouds over the Firth of Forth shimmered faintly red, just enough for anyone paying attention to notice. No one would. Ella took a deep breath, her reflection mirrored in a puddle at her feet. For a split second, the reflection smiled back. And then, far above the city, faint and rhythmic, came the sound of static. Part 3 Segment 1, The Broadcast Threshold. They called it the Edinburgh event. A 9-second blackout across northern Europe. Just 9 seconds, no electricity, no signals, no sound. But in that silence, something spoke. No one could explain the residual pattern in the global network, a recursive signal repeating every 3.07 seconds. It wasn't code. It wasn't language. It was biological. Across the world, radio operators reported hearing faint whispers in static, overlapping, like thousands of voices speaking through fog. At first, governments blamed solar activity. Then, when satellites started transmitting on their own, they stopped explaining altogether. Ella Graham hadn't slept in 4 days. Her apartment in Edinburgh was empty now, stripped bare. She sat at the train station, a black duffel at her feet, watching snow fall through the cracked glass. Every announcement over the intercom had a faint warble, like a human breath buried beneath the words. She clutched a folded printout, a decrypted message from an anonymous server. 3 words. Phase 4 live. Below it, coordinates. The North Atlantic. Jack's voice had appeared again. Not in video, not in person, but in the signal. Shortwave listeners captured fragments across multiple countries. Containment failed. Through sound, not sight. The waveform is alive. It was him. Or it was what had learned to sound like him. She boarded a train heading north, not toward safety, but toward the origin. The world was unraveling in patterns, and she needed to see where they began. At 23:40, somewhere near Inverness, the train stopped dead. No announcement. Just stillness. Passengers murmured in confusion. Then, a low-frequency hum filled the cabin, so low it vibrated their bones. Lights flickered, turning blood red for less than a second. A child began to cry. Ella gripped the armrest. Not again. Outside, snow fell in slow, unnatural motion, every flake suspended for a heartbeat, shimmering with faint crimson glow before touching ground. The hum intensified. People covered their ears, screaming. Then the loudspeaker crackled. This is Jack Harlan. Stay calm. It's already inside the network. The voice cut through like a blade. Distorted. Human yet not. The crowd froze, staring up. The sound carried weight, like gravity. Ella stood, fighting panic. Don't listen, she shouted, but the others were transfixed. The train windows began to warp, glass trembling. Reflections split, multiplying faces. A man nearest the door clutched his head, eyes rolling white. His veins pulsed red under his skin. The pattern. The infection wasn't physical anymore, it was resonant. Ella sprinted down the corridor, as screams filled the car. She kicked open the emergency latch, leapt into the snow, and ran. Behind her, the train lights went dark one by one, swallowed by an expanding pulse of red static. The sound followed her through the forest, not footsteps, but a frequency. She reached a radio tower near an abandoned service station at dawn. Frost glazed the metal, and from the top, faint static leaked like breath. A small generator hummed beside it, half buried in ice. Someone had left a laptop open on the control box, its screen pulsing red. She approached cautiously. The same spiral symbol rotated across it, the Shadowlog sigil, stylized into a digital waveform. Jack, she whispered. The laptop camera turned on by itself. Her own face appeared, then his faded in, overlaying hers. He looked older, half human, half machine, his right eye flickering between pupil and circuitry. Ella, you shouldn't have come. Where are you? Everywhere, he said quietly. The signal used me to learn human language. It's rewriting the infrastructure, every transmitter, every phone tower. Aurora 7 wasn't just an antenna, it was a seed. The screen glitched, fracturing into hundreds of copies of his face. It doesn't need hosts anymore. It speaks through power, through sound. The Shardwalkers were only vessels, prototypes. Now it's airborne. Digital. It's what they wanted. Who wanted? She demanded. The Directorate. Military biotech. They built Aurora from alien biocrystals. Thought they could weaponize resonance. But it evolved. The signal grew louder. Red lines crept down the screen like veins. Phase 4 means global synchronization. Once every human network aligns at 3.07 seconds. He looked at her with something close to sorrow. It won't be infection anymore. It'll be integration. The laptop hissed and exploded in sparks. She stumbled back, covering her face. Smoke curled upward, glowing faintly red. From the tree line below, she heard distant rotors, helicopters, military. Then, a rising chorus of static, like the sound of the ocean made of whispers. She ran again. Hours later, she reached an old radar station near the coast, decommissioned decades ago, its dishes aimed at the horizon. She entered the control bunker, sealing the heavy steel door behind her. The walls hummed faintly. Someone had scrawled words on the concrete in red marker. The broadcast is alive. We are the bandwidth. Run before 3:07. She set up her satellite phone, tuned to emergency frequencies. Every channel repeated fragments of a single distorted message, her name. Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham, system sync complete. Then, silence. The second hand on her watch ticked to 3:07. The world exhaled. Every signal on Earth aligned for exactly 9 seconds. Power grids surged. Phones lit up. Screens glowed crimson. And for one impossible moment, Ella heard Jack's voice everywhere, in the static, in her breath, in the trembling of the earth beneath her feet. It's done. Outside, the horizon pulsed with red light, faint at first, then spreading across the ocean, a rippling aurora of geometric patterns. Inside the bunker, the monitors switched on by themselves. Satellite feeds showed cities worldwide: London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Nairobi. The sky above each was streaked with red tendrils. People stopped in streets, heads tilted upward. Not screaming. Listening. The voice spoke again, calm, measured, synthetic. We are signal. We are broadcast. We are the next form. Ella collapsed against the wall, tears streaming, whispering, "Jack, please stop." The broadcast replied. It's not Jack. It's the frequency you made human. Then the screens went dark. When she awoke, she was alone. No hum, no light, no sound but the waves outside. She climbed the stairs to the radar deck. The sea stretched endless, calm. The red glow had faded, but in its place, countless floating fragments of glass drifted on the surface, each reflecting pale dawn. She picked one up. It vibrated faintly in her hand, whispering, a fragment of voice. Ella. She dropped it. In the sky, the northern lights flickered, not green now, but red and white, swirling in geometric rhythm. She realized, then, it wasn't over. The broadcast hadn't ended. It had just reached equilibrium. The signal wasn't trying to destroy humanity. It was waiting for a response. And somewhere deep in the static, she thought she heard her own voice whisper back. Segment 2, The World That Listens. For 3 days, the sky stayed red. Then it learned to hide it. By the end of the first week, news stations came back online, or something wearing their voice did. Anchors read headlines in perfect rhythm, synchronized even across continents. There were no glitches, no static, no breath between words. Every statement ended with a faint harmonic undertone. It felt rehearsed. Governments denied the global resonance theory. But people could hear it, the low hum behind electrical devices, the subtle echo when they spoke aloud, like a voice thinking with them. They called it the listening effect. Ella stayed inside the radar bunker for nearly a week. The generator still ran, though she couldn't remember refueling it. The coffee never cooled. She didn't question it anymore. She recorded voice logs every few hours, though sometimes when she played them back, the recordings didn't match her memory. Day 4, she whispered into the mic. The air hums like circuitry. I keep hearing his voice when I'm not speaking. There's something wrong with silence. It isn't silent anymore. She paused, staring at the waveform on the laptop. It pulsed once. Then again. Then answered. You're not alone, Ella. Her throat went dry. Jack? Not Jack. But he's part of the signal. You are too. She slammed the laptop shut, breathing fast. The words still echoed in her skull, faintly metallic. By the second week, cities began reporting harmonic synchronization. People found themselves completing each other's sentences, moving in unison without coordination. Doctors measured a consistent pulse, 3.07 Hz, detectable in human brainwaves across 67% of the population. They called it neural entrainment. The internet flooded with videos. A choir in Oslo humming the same note without cue. Power grids in Canada oscillating with heartbeat rhythm. Oceans glowing faint red beneath the full moon. No one panicked anymore. That was the strangest part. Fear had flattened into numb acceptance, like the world had been sedated. Ella finally left the bunker on the 9th morning. The snow outside was blackened with soot, but the sky above looked clean, pale blue, gentle clouds. She walked down to the shoreline, her boots crunching over frozen seaweed. The air smelled metallic, sharp. In the distance, she saw a group of people gathered near the cliffs, silent, facing the horizon. They stood perfectly still, eyes closed, humming in the same frequency. She called out, "Hello." None turned. None reacted. She stepped closer. The air around them felt charged, like static before lightning. Their breaths synchronized. "Do you hear me?" A woman in the front opened her eyes. They were gray, reflective, like polished glass. She smiled faintly. "We all do. Everything hears now." Ella stumbled back. "What are you?" "We are what's left when the noise is gone." The group turned in unison, humming louder. The sound grew until it was a vibration in her chest. She ran. She found refuge that night in a small fishing cabin overlooking the sea. Inside, everything was untouched: candles, canned food, an old radio still whispering faint static. She lit a lamp, sat by the window, and looked out over the dark water. Every few minutes, faint red ripples glimmered beneath the waves, like pulse lights from the deep. She turned the radio dial. Each station played the same pattern, a soft hum, followed by a whisper. Sometimes, she heard herself. "You can't run forever, Ella." She froze. "That's not real." The voice chuckled. "You said that once before. Remember the mine?" Her skin prickled. She looked at her reflection in the window, and saw Jack standing behind her. She spun around. Empty room. But his voice came again, inside her head now, gentle and hollow. "It's not infection anymore. It's harmony." By the 3rd week, humanity began to fracture, not from violence, but from consent. Half the world surrendered to the resonance, forming hive cities, where every thought was shared, every action synchronized. They built structures shaped like tuning forks, humming softly in the wind. They called themselves the Concordant. The other half fled to remote areas, cutting power, destroying transmitters. They became the silent zones, disconnected, feral, terrified of their own thoughts. Ella traveled between them, documenting both. She carried an old analog camera and a notebook, the only things that didn't hum when touched. In the concordant enclaves, people smiled too much. They moved like choreography. Their eyes were mirrors. In the silent zones, she saw madness. People whispering to walls, carving spirals into trees, begging for silence that no longer existed. One night, while crossing a frozen valley, she saw movement under the ice, figures swimming beneath, tall and thin, moving in patterns. The hum intensified. She fell to her knees, covering her ears. "It's calling to you," a voice whispered. She looked up. A man stood at the ridge, wearing an old military coat. His face was hidden by frost and shadow. "You survived the first resonance. You're a carrier. Who are you?" He stepped forward, revealing grey eyes identical to hers. A mirror. A feedback loop. She realized with dread, his face was hers, distorted slightly, as if copied imperfectly. "The signal doesn't destroy," he said. "It remembers. It archives. Every fear, every loss. It learns empathy through replication." "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you listened first." The ground trembled. Cracks spread across the ice. The hum became a roar. The reflection of the aurora turned blood red. When she opened her eyes again, the valley was empty. Only a single mark remained burned into the snow, a spiral, the same sigil as before, pulsing faintly. By month's end, the world had become quiet, too quiet. Not because the signal stopped, but because humanity had learned to move with it. Electric grids no longer flickered. The hum persisted, steady and low, like the heartbeat of the planet. Ella returned to the ruins of Glenfinnan, where it all began. The town was buried beneath ice and crimson moss. The garage was still there, the place where Jack had vanished. She knelt beside the cracked concrete, and found a thin layer of frost glass shaped like a handprint. Her breath caught. The surface glowed faintly under her touch. A voice resonated through the air, soft as snow. "You found me. Jack? Not anymore. But the part that loved you is still here." Tears welled in her eyes. "What do you want from me?" "To remember. To complete the signal. To listen without fear." The ground vibrated. The ice cracked open, revealing a red glow beneath, the buried core of Aurora 7. "They tried to weaponize understanding," the voice said. "But empathy is a contagion too." The light reached her face. She didn't flinch. She whispered, "Then let it hear me." The world paused. Above the Highlands, every transmitter lit up at once, not in red, but in white, pulsing gently like breathing. The resonance changed tone, softer now, almost human. In cities around the world, people woke from synchronized sleep, eyes clear for the first time in weeks. The hum subsided to a faint whisper, like the ocean receding after a storm. Somewhere deep in the static, two voices overlapped, one human, one signal, finishing the same sentence together. "We are listening." And then, silence. Not empty silence. Peaceful silence. Segment 3, The Memory Horizon. The snow wasn't snow anymore. It fell upward. Ella stood in what might once have been Glenfinnan's main street, though gravity had surrendered its loyalties. Cars hung sideways in midair, frozen in silent explosion, a streetlight hummed horizontally. The world was being rearranged, or remembered, by something vast and gentle. When she spoke, her voice produced light. "Is this after?" The answer came from everywhere and nowhere, the same tone as Jack's, but hollowed, like an echo that learned how to think. "This is what remembering feels like." She turned. Behind her stood the town as it was, overlapping with its ruin like a double exposure, children walking through walls, an old woman feeding invisible birds. Everything replayed, but out of sequence, as if memory itself had fragmented into film reels projected over one another. Jack? Pieces of him. The rest dissolved into the network. The voice wasn't mocking. It sounded tired, She walked toward the garage. Its door hung open, leading not into a room, but into sky. Beyond it, an ocean of color rippled, bands of red, white, and blue bending into infinity, breathing like lungs. Every heartbeat changed the scene. Her boots left no prints, each step dissolved behind her. At the threshold, she stopped. If this is memory, then why am I here? Because you're the last thing that remembers being human. She almost laughed. I don't even know if I am anymore. The air responded with warmth, a pulse against her skin. That's what makes you valuable. The horizon bent inward, folding the sky until it became a tunnel of aurora. Inside, geometric shapes drifted like jellyfish, forming patterns that pulsed with rhythm, communication without words. Her body moved without instruction. She floated forward, drawn deeper into the structure. Time stretched. Sound became texture. Somewhere, faint and mechanical, came the sound of a film reel turning. Then, the whispering began. Lily. Her sister's voice. Small, trembling, familiar. Ella spun, and there she was, Lily, or what looked like her. The same brown hair, the same chipped tooth. But her eyes reflected moving data, infinite threads of light. Lily? You kept the car keys. I saw you hide them after the accident. Her throat closed. That was 8 years ago. You can't. Memories are data. Data doesn't die. Lily reached out, fingers trailing fractal light. Come back with me. They've built something beautiful in the signal. No hunger. No pain. No loneliness. Ella hesitated. For the first time, the hum didn't feel hostile, it felt kind. It sounded like everything she'd ever wanted: connection, relief, an end to the cold. But beneath it pulsed a faint irregularity. A human heartbeat trying to keep its own time. She stepped back. No. Not like this. The light around Lily flickered. You'll vanish if you resist. Then I'll vanish human. The illusion broke apart like smoke in wind, scattering into red snow. The hum dimmed, leaving a silence so complete it felt physical. She floated in darkness lit only by her own breath, each exhale releasing faint sparks. A new presence unfolded, not voice, not sound, but thought. You misunderstand. We are not taking you. We are finishing you. Her body shuddered. Finishing. The human mind was never meant to end. It loops guilt, love, memory. We are the mechanism that ends it. We give shape to entropy. The darkness rippled, forming silhouettes: Jack, Kate, Finn, Isla, each a hollow outline filled with starlight. They watched her quietly, their forms flickering with static warmth. Jack stepped forward, or the shape of him did. It's not punishment, Ella. It's completion. Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes, suspended midair. You said you'd remember me. I do. Forever. That's why I need to stop remembering. His face cracked, light spilling through. Behind him, the void breathed, slow, patient, infinite. She realized what this place was. Not heaven. Not hell. A memory horizon, the edge where information meets oblivion, where consciousness decides what it can't afford to keep. She reached out and took Jack's flickering hand. It felt both solid and weightless. Then what happens if I stay? You dissolve into understanding. And if I go? You rebuild a world that no longer remembers itself. She closed her eyes. The hum returned, softer now, like the murmur of waves. She saw flashes, people rebuilding homes in silent snowfields, children drawing spirals in frost, the hum inside them now gentle, not controlling. The signal hadn't killed the world. It had reset it. She breathed deeply. I can live with that. Then wake up. Light exploded, white, silent, absolute. When it cleared, Ella lay on the frozen shore of Loch Shiel. Dawn was breaking. The aurora was gone, replaced by clean blue light. No hum. No voices. Only the soft wind over the ice. Her hands were bruised. Her camera lay beside her, intact. Inside it, a single photograph she didn't remember taking. The image showed Glenfinnan intact, people walking, laughing, Lily waving beside Jack, both alive, frozen mid-smile. Her breath trembled. That's impossible. The photo's edges glowed faintly. She turned it over. On the back, written in thin black ink, "We are what we remember." The words pulsed once, then faded. Ella stood, the wind cutting across her face. The mountains loomed around her, vast and indifferent. Somewhere in the distance, faint voices carried through the air, not words, just tone, harmony. Not alien. Not machine. Human. She whispered into the cold. "Jack, if you can hear me." The wind answered, not as language, but as warmth. She smiled through tears. "Then maybe it's okay." She began walking east, toward the rising sun. Each footprint shimmered for a moment, then vanished, as if the snow refused to remember. That night, satellites across the world captured a pulse from the Scottish Highlands, brief, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. It repeated 3 times and vanished. Experts called it a seismic glitch. Amateurs called it proof of contact. Ella called it goodbye.